in that kind of situation, in a feeling, thinking tug-of-war. On the back of the book, it talks about this being a guidebook to healing and healthy relationships that will help you stop harassing yourself. And again, another illustration of a feeling, thinking tug-of-war of sorts. By assisting you in eliminating the emotional debris that keeps you from experiencing love and intimacy. Do you see what keeps this couple from experiencing love and intimacy? And they don't know that's there. Don't have a clue. You see the toxic waste symbol on that illustration? They're both carrying around a bag of toxic waste, emotional toxic waste. He's got his last marriage, childhood pain, fears, anger, etc. And she's got emotional waste from the past. And you could use different nouns and adjectives and adverbs to describe the contents of their bags. But that's what keeps them apart. And what the real interesting the real interesting issue here is they don't know that. All they know is they wanted to love each other, and they were in love with each other at one time, and then over time something happened, and now they can't get close to the other person. And of course, since they don't know they've got a sack of stuff, they're going to blame the other person. They've changed. I hear that every day. People come in to talk to me about divorce, and I talk to them about what's going on. By the way, I always require clients to get into counseling that are going through divorce. And they ask me, well, why do I need to do that? And I said, because I don't represent crazy clients anymore. You know, and I say that in a way and explain it to where I don't hurt their feelings. I say, you know, when I first started practicing law, I used to get 3 or 4 phone calls a night about who's going to get the brown top Tupperware and who's going to get the toaster oven. And I said I finally figured out it wasn't about the Tupperware or the toaster oven. It was about people hurting. And if you're coming to me as your lawyer, I'm not going to be your counselor, and you need to get one so you can talk to them about the hurt. So when we talked about what you need to do about your divorce case, it's about staying on purpose and getting you through the experience and not cluttering that up by me getting a resentment against you for calling me late at night with your emotional stuff. And they understand that. But the interesting fact in this particular illustration is, and see, these people really want to get close to each other. They want to live the rest of their lives with each other. They want to have children. Maybe they already have children. And they really don't want to get divorced. Well, I guarantee you, this is a guarantee, the pain of hanging on to their stuff will get so intense they think they have no other alternative but to get divorced. See, although I'm a divorce attorney, I don't believe divorces are necessary. I think they're optional, but you need 2 people who are willing to go to any length to deal with their stuff. And it's real difficult to find 2 people who are willing to go to any lengths to deal with their stuff. Because part of the Adam and Eve scenario is, it's not me, it's him. Well, it's not me, it's her. She changed. Overnight. She was this cuddly, supportive, loving, nurturing, warm person, and then she started bitching. Bitch, 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 bitch. And she'll be on the phone talking to her friend saying, you know, at first he was such a wonderful, strong figure, and then he just laid around the couch, just, you know, spinning channels on the TV, drinking beer and belching. He's just gross. You know, we never kiss anymore, he never holds me anymore. You know, all he does is watch CNN and raises hell with the dog when it's barking and interrupting his football games. You know, I mean, I hear this every single day. And what's true is the people haven't changed at all. But what's come up is the junk from the past, and they don't know how to identify what that is. And so they go into certain defensive behavior and interactions with each other, which are real common. And those are a couple of illustrations that I see a whole lot. But these people, in order to effectively deal with the relationship, have to deal with what in the world they came in with into the relationship. And that's where I got the idea for the book, Recovering from Divorce and the Horse You Rode In On. Now, I got the idea for the book from an old Lee Marvin movie called Cat Ballou. How many remember Cat Ballou? Well, for those of you who haven't seen Cat Ballou, by all means go out and rent it because it's a classic movie. Jane Fonda and Cat Ballou and Nat King Cole and just a lot of really good people were in the movie. But right at the end of the movie, Lee Marvin, who is playing a gunfighter named Kid Shalene, is drunk, and he's supposed to come to the aid of Cat Ballou, played by Jane Fonda. And he was on this horse, leaned up against the barn, and the horse looked as drunk as Lee Marvin was. And it was one of those pictures that when you see it, I think it'll just always stay with you. I know it sure has me. And I thought of that, and I went, that's it. People who come into a relationship are riding a horse that's about ready to fall down and die. They don't know it, and they're looking good. And what happens is the intensity of being in love. There was a Time article about that not too long ago, and I don't have that article with me tonight, but it's like morphine. It's like shooting up with morphine. That's what the endorphin level is like in your brain when you're in love. There's nothing better. There is nothing better than being in love, but it does not last a lifetime. What happens is it subsides, and as soon as it subsides, the horse you rode in on starts whinnying. But you don't know that's the horse you rode in on, but you're real clear that that's the horse he or she rode in on, and then here you go. You're off and running in a lot of different ways. So it's my belief that in order to create an emotional and spiritual environment that's conducive to being able to get along with one another in a relationship, by all means you have to deal with what you brought into the relationship in terms of what happened in your past. Now, this is what a relationship will look like sometime during the relationship. You have her on your left and him on your right, and you've got two people who are harassing themselves and keeping what's real hidden. Now, what kind of a chance do these people have to deal with their stuff and be successful in a relationship? Now, they may have a kid or two and stay real distracted from that. Best thing to do to not deal with your stuff is have a kid, because I guarantee you that little kid will keep you distracted for a while. But then what it just seems phenomenal. In the last probably 5 or 6 years, I have a lot of people coming to me that have been married like 30 years or more that want divorced. And I talk to them about it because I'm real interested in why that's going on. Well, their kids are gone. And had they not had kids, they would have been unplugging the cord a long, 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 long time ago. But the kids were a distraction that, and I don't mean just a negative distraction. I'm just saying that children are a way that couples can focus on something besides what's going on in themselves. And if they haven't dealt with their stuff, the kids will be nuts, and it'll really give them a real interesting distraction to deal with. And people come to me for counseling, and they say, oh, I've got, the child is just really having problems. And I try to explain to them that what kids do is they, in an outer way, manifest what's going on with the parents unconsciously, oftentimes. And so if you want to know what's unresolved about you and your partner, see how your kids are doing. Are they depressed? Are they hyperactive? Are they literally flying around? Or what's going on? Or are they real controlled? Or, I mean, what's happening with the kids? And one of the best things I tell parents, or the thing I tell parents the most in terms of being able to help create and co-create and raise healthy kids, is work on your stuff. And if kids have role models that are working on their stuff and dealing with these issues, they learn from that. And if they don't, they don't. And another interesting issue about people who go through divorces and they have kids is that in terms of an analogy, children are made up basically half of their mom and half of their dad. Okay, is that a fairly easy concept? I mean, I have to keep it real simple for me. And if their mom and dad can't deal with their conflict in a way to where even if they get divorced, and they're still fairly friendly, the impact on the kids isn't as severe as when there's still conflict going on. But in a lot of cases, the conflict continues. The problem is that kid intuitively gets that the war between mom and dad is unresolvable, because here are these great big people unable to resolve this conflict. Where does that leave them with who they are? It's like mom is in conflict with dad. They've got this internal conflict with no hope of resolution, and this is all on an unconscious, intuitive level. And what the studies have indicated, that kids from divorced parents don't have a very strong likelihood of being able to develop relationships that work any better than their parents did. And oftentimes what will happen is someone from a divorced family will be intuitively attracted to someone else from a divorced family. So what we have is the odds are rising that that relationship just doesn't have a chance, unless they happen to be lucky enough to be those kind of participants in a relationship that are willing to deal with their stuff. And it's fascinating. I mean, you all must have an inkling of how fascinating the journey can be in terms of getting in touch with all this stuff and recreating your reality in a way to where you can respond spontaneously in different ways than the way you were raised, or the way you have in your last relationship, or in the last 20 relationships. Another illustration that, to me, really brings home the idea of the necessity of cleaning up the past is this one, the ball and chain. And I really believe that if you do not deal with the hurts from the past, you're not going anywhere. And what's interesting, again, according to my experience, is you will be intuitively attracted to someone else who has not dealt with their stuff if you haven't dealt with yours. Because you can't attract anybody any healthier than you are. Now, at first it doesn't matter because you've got morphine going through your veins. And it doesn't matter who, it's like a coyote date. You know, anybody know what a coyote date is? It's one of those dates when you've had way too much to drink, and you come home and you wake up the next morning and you look over and your arm's outstretched and your date from last night that you picked up at the bar is on your arm. And he or she is so ugly that in order not to wake them up to have to talk to them, you gnaw your arm off. That's a coyote date.